My name is Asa, and I'm here representing my organization, the Worcester Roots Project. I'm from Worcester, Massachusetts, and I want to tell you a little bit about what our organization has done, where we've come from, and where we're planning to be going. So way back in 2001, a group of residents and local students started organizing around this issue of lead soil. And that Worcester is an old post-industrial town. It's got all these factories. It's got all these issues from asbestos to lead. And now, over the years, the cheap paint that they use to paint all over the triple-deckers, the cheap immigrant housing for the laborers, has leached into the soil even when it's painted over. And now, decades after it's been outlawed, the kids that are still playing in these backyards have to deal with the effects to their brain, to their health, attacking their organs. And residents organizing around this organized around this idea of direct action, that we work directly with the issue and not going through intermediary means, but when there's problems with the soil, going directly and doing remediation and working with homeowners and making sure that those toxins don't poison people. Now, they've been doing a lot of organizing for a while around doing this anti-lead work when they decided that they also need to create something positive to counter all the negativity of what this bad economic development meant. Economic development that meant setting up huge corporations that weren't accountable and were poisoning the community. And that's where the Toxic Soil Busters came in. Toxic Soil Busters is a youth-led cooperative business program where the youth control the business and go out and are hired to do landscaping, hired to do lead soil remediation and lead-safe outreach, and empowers them, educating them in how to run their own business, how to be good public speakers, how to work as a team, and how to care for their community. And Toxic Soil Busters has now been around for 7 years, and I joined in 2010 as just one of these youth in this very youth program. And I started off in the summer just as a job. It was something that I'd seen them around the community and thought they looked really cool, but I really didn't understand what the broader implications of it were. So they had us doing these workshops in these schools, and I remember one moment where we had the slide up trying to educate them about the kids in this high schools about lead soil. And there's a big map which shows the instances of children with elevated lead levels in their blood. And we saw all these red dots over the city, but they were all concentrated over this one particular area of the city. And the kids were like, well, what's that? And I'm like, well, that's Maine South. That's where you guys go to school. That's the predominantly people of color, poor neighborhoods where all these poisons are concentrated. And that's part of the reason why the city doesn't allocate funds in the same way it would in a more upper class, whiter neighborhood. And there was this sort of like, oh, this recognition, like in their eyes of like truth, like this is a language that speaks to their actual lived reality. And I thought that's the power of youth. That's something that you won't get out of any other group of people, is that total innocent reflection, not any kind of cynicism, not filtered, but really saying, hey, this is something that speaks to my reality. This is something that we need to go out and do something about. And Toxic Soil Busters has been an amazing force in the community for the past 7 years. We've hired dozens of youth who have presented all around the country, won awards from California, from the EPA, and done conferences in Philadelphia and New York, and been a positive inspiration to people all over the country. We remediated over 40 yards of lead soil in the city of Worcester, doing a variety of techniques from stone paving to excavation to planting plants like scented geraniums, which soak up the lead in the soil, and then those plants are safely disposed of, using these kinds of experimental techniques that only youth would dream would be possible. Now, that's been going on for the past 12 years, and we're sort of coming into a phase where we're trying to reinvent ourselves and imagine different possible places that this enterprise could go. And one of them is this idea of a co-op being a business that's controlled by the people that are invested in that business. People who work in the business, the people that have to deal with the daily in, day out, are the people that should have control over how that business is run. Toxic Soil Busters runs in this way, but we're also interested in having businesses that are independent of this Worcester Roots umbrella go out and be positive forces in the community that aren't dependent on this NGO model. So we've incubated several worker cooperatives in this style. One of them is Future Focus Media, which is a youth-run media cooperative that does like media education, that does gets hired to do videos, gets hired to do websites, and right now is working on a film festival for social and environmental justice issues focusing on youth and having that youth voice and getting that out there, and actually make a profit doing it, showing that this is a real alternative career that these youth can invest in. And we've also been involved in incubating this other cooperative called the Diggers, which does permaculture, landscaping, and sort of this holistic foodscape mentality to urban gardening and what the possibilities of a home really are. So we've had these sort of like singular projects, and we want to bring this model to a wider audience. So that's why this fall we're doing the Co-op Academy with some help from people in Boston, Connecticut, and New York. We're bringing this comprehensive curriculum on how to start your very own business. How many people have wanted to start a business at some point in their lives? Pretty much everybody. A cooperative is an amazing way to energize a group of people, a group of committed, caring individuals, and really use this as a platform for ways that you can have control over the business and make sure that you have a triple bottom line. That it's not just about the profits, it's also about the environment, it's also about the community. Now, these are amazing isolated projects that sort of exemplify these ideas of sustainability and these ideas of community control that NEGEF is so proud to support. But we also want to see not only these isolated instances, but also the connections between them. That's why Worcester Roots Project is a member of the Worcester Solidarity and Green Economy Alliance, which is an organization dedicated to this idea of solidarity economy. That all these singular projects, from community gardens to things like time trade to co-ops, can work with each other to create a system that is counter to the normal competitive money before people, profits before people mentality that dominates our global economy today. And we're trying to create these connections so that we can create a real alternative and not just a place to buy your vegetables, but also connecting that with a whole chain where we can control as much of this value-producing economy as possible. And we're having a conference for the third time, our third annual conference, this August 25th through the 27th in Worcester, and we're putting out the call for people to come, people to propose sessions, people to bring their own dialogues and their own place-based issues and thoughts to our conference and see how we can make connections between what may seem like disparate or very different projects, which would actually have all these links in common. Now, I'll tell you a quick story about the first conference that we had way back in 2011. We had it at the local Worcester Youth Center, and we had a big market out where all these different people were doing and bartering all these different projects, and we had all these co-ops. And at the same time, it was sort of like, so what's coming of this? So what are these people are talking, but do they actually have anything in common? But one of the things that came out of that was one person, for example, had a biodiesel processor, but didn't have any vegetable oil, and it was just sitting unused in this warehouse space. But somebody else had all this unprocessed vegetable oil. And so these are the kinds of connections which, when you don't have these kinds of dialogues and don't have these kinds of conversations, they don't come out. And those are the kinds of conversations that Worcester Roots Project is trying to inspire. One more thing that the SAGE is doing now is sort of thinking back to the earlier story about the map and seeing all those red dots in that one place and how much more effective it is to show people an idea than it is to just tell them about it. And that's why Worcester SAGE is focusing on this new mapping project to take all these different solidarity economy initiatives and put them all on a map where people can see the connections between them, click on them and read their profiles and learn more about them, and not only educate themselves, but also create new connections that can go up on that map that wouldn't have happened otherwise. And so how much more effective it is to say, hey, your modeling of the world around you is actually performative upon that world, that it can actually help shape it. And just by doing this education, you aren't just telling people about the world, you're actually shaping what you're going to tell them about it tomorrow. Thank you very much. Please tell people about the Co-op Academy and come to the conference in August. Thank you.